Hello and welcome to my studio. I thought I'd give you a little tour of it. Yeah, so let's get started. Well, the new computer, it's got like 128 gigs of RAM and like a 4.8 gigahertz processor. I had my friend Nomana help me with building it. So yeah, he picked out the right specs to make it run as well as it could. So thank you, Nomana. My interface is a Focusrite 18i20 with an additional Octoprix. So in total, I've got about 16 inputs. And then I have a U80 Apollo Twin back there for 2 additional inputs, and obviously to run all my U80 plugins and stuff. And I've got my Drama monitor controller to switch between all my different monitors. My different monitors are the Head Type 20s, which I love. I think it's the best quality sound you can get for the price they are. Definitely recommend them. And then the Atom A7Xs, which I sometimes monitor on them for short amounts of time just to reference. They have a more, how should I say, unflattering sound, so I can really see if mix is working on those. So I'll switch between those two. And then I also have a sub pack down here. I used to have it here on my chair, but I liked it better on the floor, just because I like being able to just put my foot over and feel the bass rather than having it on my back. It's kind of, I get a more accurate sense of what's going on in the low end when I do that. And then I've got a few pieces of outboard gear, which I'll use now and again for recording. Over here, I've got a few preamps, which I use. Here's the SGX Night Bass by Art. I love this thing mainly because Dave Jordan used it on a lot of the Alice in Chains records. There's a video of him being interviewed by Warren Hewitt, which is really great. And he was talking about the Night Bass. So I went out and got one. When I saw there was one in my local shop, I just had to get it. Great bass preamp with loads of different settings in it. And then below that we have the Thermonic Culture Vulture Super 15. It's a great saturation distortion unit with loads of different distortion settings. I use it a lot to mess up vocals a little bit on the way in. It's really cool for that. Also great for bass and guitar for getting punchy mid-rangey distortion. And then the Dizengoff Audio D4. It's a really great tube preamp. It's kind of based off of the Abbey Road console they used to use, the red console. Also really great on bass. And then the Avalon 737, just another great all-round Class A mic preamp. It's great with guitars, vocals, all sorts of stuff. It's really just great all around. And this thing up here is a little Tascam 122 tape machine that I just bought. Currently, one of the belts isn't there, so I'm waiting for a replacement. But yeah, I just wanted to have a way to make tapes and record to tape, even if it's a cassette tape. Just being able to put something on a physical medium, I think, is a cool tool to have.
Which would you say is your favorite?
Honestly, lately, I've been using my U80 Unison preamps for a lot of stuff. I've been just running them through U80 plugins, and it's been getting a pretty great sound. So recently, that's been my favorite. But if not that, then I'd say the Avalon, because it's just so versatile. Yeah, then I've got a few synths over here. The Yamaha TX81Z, just a nice, cheap FM synth, rack mount. Really hard to program, but there's a Max for Live patch that somebody made that you can do it with an Ableton, which makes it a lot easier. Then we have the Korg MS-20, which was the first ever synth I ever bought. It's one of the reissues with the USB input, so yeah, nothing special, really common, but amazing synth for how cheap it is. And yeah, the Korg 707. Well, this one's quite rare. It's a blue one. It's cool to just plug into an amp and run through a bunch of effects. I don't know how to describe the 707. It was really unloved when it first came out. and it was really popular with like early techno producers and stuff, so it has a special place in my heart. And then the Korg MS-2000, which I bought off of my roommate. Again, I love Korg synths, can't get enough of them. Just another great all-around analog digital synth.
Do you have recent tracks that came out that you made on either of these?
Yeah, I'll like do loads of effects and stuff with my analog stuff. There's a few stuff that I've been working on recently that have a lot of actual like synth parts that were made on these. In the last drum and bass track I put out like loads of different arpeggios that I would run through a bunch of effects and through the amp and stuff. So yeah, here we have a Carvin mixer. Not much to say about this except it was owned by Frank Zappa at one point, and it sounds really dark and not that pleasant, but that's why I wanted it. I wanted something that I could get that sort of old, dark sound from. And this is meant to be a console for a live setup, so it's not really meant for a studio. Yeah, you can get some interesting sounds out of it for sure. I use it less nowadays that I have better preamps. A little tool to play around with blending sounds and blending mics, it's really cool. And then I have my two amps, a Fender Super Champ and Marshall DSL 40. Two really great mid-priced amps, pretty small but big sounds, good for recording. This one's great because it has a bunch of different settings and effects. Probably one of the most versatile little amps you can get. So this one's cool. It's the Ross Phaser Distortion. It's I think from 1981, great little phaser distortion. It's a new one I got, the Arpanoid by Earthquaker. Kind of turns whatever you're playing into arpeggios. It's really cool. And then you can hold it down and release, and it sort of turns on the effect and off really quickly. It's cool. The Particle by Red Panda, granular delay. I've got a lot of delay pedals. Delay is probably one of my favorite pedal type, I guess. But yeah, this one's super cool. Granular with loads of different options and parameters that you can mess around with. Another Earthquaker, a Bit Commander. This one's just a synth, so you play guitar and it turns it into an oscillator, pretty much. The DoD Stereo Flanger. Got a DoD Grunge. I don't know, I just like the idea that this was on Kurt Cobain's pedal board and he never used it. It was sort of just him trolling, but it actually sounds pretty cool. I use it a lot. The Quicksilver Double Delay. This one's a pretty rare one. I had to mess up the paint job a little bit because I had to file down these knobs because they were getting in the way of each other when I was turning them. But yeah, it's a double delay, meaning there's like two speeds, and it also has a sort of modulation on the feedback, which is cool. And you can set the speed and the amount here. Morley AB, so I can blend signals. This is a locally made fuzz pedal made here in Mount Washington called the Classy Gen. Again, really super rare and sounds great. Love it on lead guitar. The Crybaby. Obviously, it's the first pedal I ever bought. The Polara Reverb. Love this reverb. It's got stereo in and out, so it's really useful. My Aquapus. Really great for slapback delay, another delay. And also it self-oscillates when you turn it all the way up and mess around with the speed, and you can create some pretty crazy effects. The Freakout, it creates artificial harmonic feedback, like when you put a guitar too close to an amp, and then you can set which harmonic it is. I actually like running synths through this because it creates weird harmonics that weren't there. So yeah, another super weird but cool pedal. And this Danelectro slap echo delay that somebody sent me, so thank you for that. If you want to send me pedals, hit me up. The Uwah. Now this is a cool little pedal. It's like a filter step sequencer. So you control the different steps, the filter steps with this, and it sort of creates a little filter sequence. And then you can set it to 4, you can set how long it is. You can set 4, 8, or 6 steps, or random. And yeah, it's super cool. The only problem is it doesn't have DC power. You have to use a battery. And yeah, just some standard, the RV3, another good delay/reverb, and another little fuzz pedal that I hardly use anymore.
Do you have any of these that you can talk about specific, that you used on specific tracks?
Well, this I've been using a lot, especially on bass sounds. The next chapter, the bass sound from that is run through this really cool analog sounding distortion. Yeah, the Blessed Be Thy Name, the bass sound from that is also a lot of this. There's a lot of effects in my tracks that were made with this, just by turning the feedback up and messing with the delay time, and then running that through other plugins and stuff. This being my first pedal, it was on a bunch of stuff. Should be able to hear it on like Get Down to Get Up. Like the whole backing track from that, I was using this a lot, and this little amp.
Would you say that you are mainly using these with live instruments, or are you running like VSTs, like the outputs through here?
A bit of everything. Some I favor more towards live instruments, and some I favor more towards running synths or VSTs through. But I'll mix it up all the time. Here we have a little guitar collection. It's basically everything that I need to get the right sounds that I want. Got my Gibson Les Paul, great for lead and more metal style guitar stuff. Got the strings muted up here so it doesn't ring on too much. And moving right from that, it's the Music Man Sterling bass. Every studio probably has one of these. Probably best all-around bass, cheap bass that you can get. This is my classical, I think it's a Cordoba? No, it's a Yari and Son. Yeah, a little Japanese guitar. I think it was like $300, but yeah, it sounds really nice. And my Martin acoustic. I didn't want anything super fancy or vintage. I just wanted something that sounded good. So all my guitars are pretty utilitarian. And then my Strat sounds great in that Fender amp. And yeah, pretty standard guitar collection. It's everything I need. Over here, next to this plastic didgeridoo, is my mic collection. And on top we have the Neumann FET 47, which I use on pretty much everything, from vocals to guitars to drums, if I have drums to record. Yeah, it's such a great all-around mic. It's mainly meant for kick drums though. It's probably the most expensive piece of gear I own. Moving down to some less expensive gear. The Realistic condenser microphone. It's a little battery-powered mic with absolutely zero range, so you have to get right up on it to get any sound whatsoever. So it's super good for plugging into an amp and getting distorted vocals because it doesn't create as much feedback because it doesn't pick up that much around. Another super cool little tool to have. And another cool little thing to have is this. It's a crystal mic. I have no idea who it's made by. Doesn't say the brand anywhere. Yeah, it's great for getting like that spoken through a telephone sound vocals. And sometimes I'll put this on an amp to get just the high fizz and blend that in with the other mics. And there's a bunch of different types of crystal mics out there that you can get for pretty cheap. Definitely recommend getting one. Standard 57, and it's the AKG D200. Really super interesting mic because when you get up super close, the proximity effect is like the opposite of most mics. So the closer you get, the like less low end you hear and more mid-range you get, and the further away you get, it becomes more even. So yeah, I like using this for super mid-rangey vocals. I'll put this on an amp. Super underrated mic. I got this for super cheap, and recently I've seen them get more expensive, so I think I made the good investment in this. This is sometimes referred to as the Beatles mic or the Ringo mic, because the Beatles and other musicians from that era would use this. Yeah, it's an AKG D19. This particular one has a really sharp spike around 5,000 hertz, and yeah, it has its uses on some instruments. Like recently I've done a lot of acoustic guitar with this because it doesn't have much low end, and it has a nice curve that brings out the frequencies of the guitar nicely, but like on vocals, it's kind of hard to make this work, which is a shame because that's why I bought it. But it turns out that this is super good on guitars and other instruments. Another staple of any studio, the SM58. Then I've got a few more cheap mics that are fun to play around with. Like this. Don't even know who makes it. It says US690. I think it's meant for like a school principal's office or something. Oh yeah, and this is pretty good on amps and yeah, sometimes vocals, depending, like background vocals maybe. Then yeah, the TC Helicon mic, which I hardly ever use. I think it's, yeah, another cheap ass mic. I don't think it's even mine. I think it's my roommate's. My C414, another great, super versatile, multi-pattern mic. I love it on vocals, on amps in combination with the 57. And the first mic I ever bought over here, the Rode NT1A. And yeah, this hasn't really aged too well. The high end sounds really plasticky, I think, but some people really like this mic, so. Thank you for watching, and if you want us to do more of these with other people's studios, then let us know down in the comments and we'll try and make that happen. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.